Welcome back to the program. Yes, I know. I promised that I wasn't going to do a show today, but my travel plans got changed a little bit and got delayed. So I'm going to be leaving a little bit later than I thought. And so I had time and I decided to do a special Thanksgiving type of show. You know, we've got a lot to be thankful for this Thanksgiving. Not only did President Trump win the election, but win it big with a mandate. We got the House, we got the Senate, we got the presidency, and of course, we've got an opportunity, which is more important, to get this country back on track and to get rid of a lot of the spending, a lot of the wasteful spending. We've got a chance with Doge to cut the size of the government. And remember, you know, it looks like we have 220 seats right now, which is two more than the minimum needed to pass certain legislation. One of the first things that they ought to do is they ought to pass the SAVE Act, day one. Okay, that ought to be the first piece of legislation that the new Trump administration passes. Why? Because if you can pass the SAVE Act, which will mandate that every single state has voter ID, and that no citizens that are not U.S. citizens can vote in our elections, you've solved 35 to 40% of all of our election issues, right like that. 19 states, heels up, headboard, Harris won. Not one of them required voter ID. Every single state that required voter ID, she lost. So what does that tell you? It tells you that Democrats cannot win elections unless they cheat. Plain and simple. Okay? So that ought to be the first bill. And if it's brought up in the House, then we only need 218 to pass it. Democrats don't have the numbers to stop it. So let's assume there's at least two rhinos and it goes to 218. I don't know. Hopefully not. We're going to have to put pressure on the extra two or three, whoever they may be. And so let's say that happens, and then it goes to the Senate. Well, with 54 votes, potentially, it should pass. And if it passes the House and it passes the Senate, President Trump's going to sign it into law. And then, voila, we are off to the races, and everything else that we do after that is important, but quite frankly, gravy. Because solving our election issues, number one, is the number one and most important thing. And after passing the SAVE Act, then we want to eliminate mail-in voting. We want to eliminate early voting. You know, there's some other things that we have to do to secure our elections. And then from there, once we've secured our elections, then we start going after the criminals. Because once we go after the criminals and hold them accountable, we don't have to worry about these criminals ever coming back into power because we already fixed our elections. So the most important thing is our elections, which is why it's in the very beginning of the book, right? Election integrity was right in the beginning. So I wanted to kind of put that into perspective. But the other thing that I want to do, where am I at? 3 minutes. Okay, perfect. Is I want to talk about other things we should be thankful for. We should be thankful that millionaires and billionaires lost huge amounts of money betting on the Harris horse, okay? And I'm going to break it down and I'm going to show it to you. Now, the good news is that the majority of big money that was seen in this election was from the Republican side. That's right. It was from the Republican donor side, not the Democrats. 2020, it was the Democrats. 2016, it was the Democrats. The Democrats almost always spend more money. Now, this whole notion about her raising $1.5 billion, having nothing to show for it, well, I'm going to show you where about a third of that money was wasted here in just a minute. But what I'm saying is Republicans and Republican donors and millionaires and billionaires stepped up big time for President Trump, okay? And they helped considerably win this election as well. There was a lot of money for ads. But let's talk about some of the people that we should be thankful have lost some of their money. Top contributors, federal election data for the Harris 2024 cycle. Alphabet, also known as Google, lost $4,623,000. The University of California lost $4,154,000. Microsoft dumped $2.6 million in the toilet. Amazon, they dumped $2.3 million in the toilet. Apple Incorporated dumped $2.1 million. Kaiser Permanente, $1.8 million. Meta, Facebook, $1.8 million. The U.S. government, $1.790 million, $1,790,000. Now, wait a minute. How can the federal government give money to a political candidate? How is that even legal? That cannot be legal. I'm sorry. And especially not an incumbent. So I took it upon myself to do a little bit of research. And I'm correct. It's not legal. Okay? It is not legal for an incumbent political candidate or campaign to directly receive donations from the federal government that they control. The use of federal government funds for political campaigns is strictly prohibited by U.S. law. Here are some key factors on why they are not allowed. Campaign finance laws. Under the Federal Election Campaign Act, FECA, and the Federal Elections Commission, FEC, regulations, political campaigns are restricted from receiving funds from individual donations, political action committees, and certain other sources that comply with campaign finance laws. The federal government itself cannot contribute funds to political campaigns. 2, use of government resources. It is illegal for candidates to use government resources, including funds, staff, or equipment for campaign purposes. This would violate laws such as the Hatch Act, which restricts federal employees, including those who may be part of a candidate's campaign or administration, from engaging in certain political activities while on duty. 3, corruption and abuse of power concerns. Allowing a candidate in office to directly access government funds for their own campaign would create a significant risk of corruption and abuse of power. This is why there are laws that prohibit any federal government funding from being used for electoral purposes. Political fundraising. While the federal government does not fund political campaigns, an incumbent candidate can raise funds from private sources, including individual donors and PACs. However, these funds must be raised with compliance with campaign finance laws and cannot come from any government official or agency. Okay? Do you understand? So what does that mean? That means that what they have done is illegal, unethical, unconstitutional, unlawful, and hopefully Pam Bondi, this will be one of the investigations that they do into the entire Harris campaign. Every single person that worked for it ought to be indicted for this, because this is violation of campaign finance laws. And so it says the U.S. government, $1,790,792. State of California, $1,348,000. Stanford University, $1.3 million. United States Department of Veterans Affairs. Again, the federal government. How is this legal? $1.26 million. U.S. Department of Defense. So you have the U.S. Department of Defense donating to the incumbent political party, and that's not a violation of the Hatch Act as well as all these other campaign finance laws? Clearly it is. It has to be. Harvard University, after that was $1.1 million. Walt Disney, $1,039,000. IBM, $1,021,000. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, again, the government, $990,000. University of Washington, $918,000. Wells Fargo Bank, $862,000. Massachusetts General Hospital, $855,000, and Blue Cross Blue Shield, $831,000. That total right there from the companies and corporations was $34,057,000 $57,152. But it gets even better. Okay, here's the grand finale. Bill Gates lost $50 million. Mayor Bloomberg lost $70 million. Reid Hoffman, the CEO and founder of LinkedIn, lost $35 million. George and Alexander, the spawn of Satan, Soros, lost $60 million. Dustin Moskovitz lost $39 million. He's the co-founder of Facebook until it was stolen from him, from Mark Zuckerberg. Fred Eichner, $32.7 million. He's a billionaire investor and gay rights activist. United Brotherhood of Carpenters, $32 million. There goes the unions down the drain. James and Marilyn Simmons, hedge funds, $30.7 million. Stephen Mandel, hedge funds, $30 million. And then the National Education Association, thankfully, lost $30 million. And then Deborah Simon, a real estate mogul, lost $19 million. So those totals there of all of those individual people was 428 million 34,034,000 dollars. So that's a pretty penny. That's a lot of money. That's almost what, a third of what they raised, the 1.5 million. It's a little less actually, but it's close to a third, which would be what, 500 million. That's a lot of money they lost. A lot of money. So you think they're going to step up next time when they lost all that money for a losing candidate and a losing horse? Probably not. Probably not, especially if we can kick their ass again in 2026 in the midterms by being successful for the first 2 years. So be thankful for a lot. Be thankful for the opportunity to save this country. Be thankful for your family and for a brighter future and a better financial future, hopefully, for all of us, and a safer society. And when these people are being removed from society, the ability to buy a home or rent at a reasonable cost and price, less money to put in your gas tank so that you can go further, and it doesn't have to be such a big expense. If you're in the restaurant industry, no tax on tips. If you're a senior citizen over 65 and retired on Social Security and benefits, it hasn't passed yet, but they're talking about no tax on Social Security and benefits. So that would be awesome to give that big break to our older folks that certainly have earned it. And then no tax on overtime or something. That was another thing that he was working on. There's a lot of things that they talked about that we are now hopefully going to watch happen. One thing about President Trump, we know from the past, he keeps his promises. He's the type of guy that probably has written down everything that he's ever said and promised and is literally going to check them off one by one. Okay, that one. Oh, I did that one. Oh, I done that one. Oh. Except hopefully this time, he's not going to have the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, DHS, independent counsels, Democrats, deep state officials. Hopefully he's not going to have all that because he's being smart. And his transition team is not in Washington. They're doing everything from Mar-a-Lago. They are doing it on their own phones that are not part of the State Department. And they're breaking all the protocol because they don't trust the intel community. And thank God they don't. So, happy Thanksgiving to all of you. I appreciate each and every one of you. God bless you all. And we're going to have a great 2025. That is for sure. We're going to fight like hell to make sure that President Trump's agenda is put in, and not just through executive action. We want legislation for a lot of this stuff. So we're going to push. We're going to push real, real hard. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. And remember, I'll be doing the Full Access Friday. Okay? God bless.